So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Zoom, making the time. Today's a really important topic because, as you all know, insurance, home insurance, and flood insurance are needed to be able to close, and the insurance market is changing a lot. So today we're going to talk about what you need to know as a real estate agent, some new guidelines, and what to look out for, and a quick update on the current market and how things are heading for the market here in Florida. So with that, I also want to first off thank Alicia that we were able to set up the Zoom. So thank you so much. And yeah, so let's jump right into it. Let me see here. All right, so we're just gonna get into the meat and potatoes first. So the new 2025 guidelines. So there's some things happening with Citizens Insurance. A lot of you may know Citizens Insurance just because they still do a lot of business still in Florida. So this year they added something called the proof of residency credit, where for investment properties they're gonna need the lease agreement, and then for a if it's their primary property, they're going to go ahead and just ask them to sign a form saying that it's their primary residence. So that's something new, and that's been helping out lower the premiums with Citizens. And then also for roofs, pretty much every company is making sure that the roof has at least 5 years minimum remaining. It used to be 3 years, but now it's 5 years remaining on any tile, shingle, or flat roof. So on the 4-point inspection, that's very crucial that it has that, because if not, we're gonna have some trouble trying to find an option. So that's been a big thing now. And then something that we have been running into is, let's say the roof is in really good condition. They recently redid it, but they didn't do it without a permit. Then that really limits our options, because a lot of the companies now they're looking for a permit on the roof. So if, let's say, that is a situation, there is solutions. Citizens would be the first go-to, and then we have also two other private companies that do take it, but usually their premiums come back a little bit higher, and overall the home has to be in really good condition to be able to qualify with them. So a lot of the times, if this is a case where there's no roof permit, Citizens has been winning most of the business on that. But with that, we need to submit it to their underwriting for approval, and that can take some time to get approved, because those underwriters are approving those policies all day, every day. So they basically go about it as the requests come in, and it's not only our agency that they're getting requests from. So it can take about 7 to 10 business days for an approval. If the closing is within 48 hours, then we can ask for a rush with a pre-closing disclosure from the lender, and that's been able to get it pushed through. But if the closing is a couple days out, a week out, a couple weeks out, then it is going to take some time to get that approval with Citizens, if we're in the case of the roof not having a roof permit. And then what's also new this year is a Citizens Easy Links. It's kind of like a quoting portal that they made for agents. And what they're doing is that they're really trying to limit their business. So what's happening is that in order to be able to bind with Citizens, the actual premium needs to be about 20% more expensive, or all the private insurance companies need to be 20% more expensive than Citizens in order to be able to bind a Citizens policy. So what they're doing is that they're trying to limit their business. Other private insurance companies have been coming into the market, so that's been the caveat to that, and a really good direction that we're going in. And in this presentation, I'm going to show a couple new companies that are coming out that have really been making a difference in the market. So, and then to piggyback off that, for polybutylene pipes, that used to be a really it is still a big thing, but now there are options, because before there was no options for polybutylene pipes. Now we have two private companies that are accepting them, and depending on the condition of the home and the location, they're actually pretty competitive as far as the premium. So that's been huge, and we've been able to save a lot of deals because of that, if it has polybutylene pipes. So that's something new as well this year. And then let's say the roof, this has been huge this year. Let's say the roof has 0 remaining years. Like, let's say the seller is going to give a credit for the roof to for the buyer to be able to do the roof after closing. We can still get insurance through Citizens. They're going to be pretty much the only option there because they're the only company that does this, where we can submit a roofing contract. The roofing contract needs to be with a licensed roofing company, and it must be signed by the buyer, and it has to state on the contract that the roof will be completed within 30 days after closing. If we get that, then we can get underwriting to approve it. And then Citizens, they are going to send out their own inspector to go ahead and make sure that the roof is done after those 30 days are up. If the roof is not done, then they are able to flat cancel the policy. But at least to get through closing, this is a solution that that's been helping a lot of people. If they're in that situation where the seller's giving you credit for the roof because the roof is in bad condition, we see a lot of that. So that's a solution for that. And then in the meet, if you guys have any questions too, feel free to type it in the chat. And then I'll stop to read if there's any questions. And then what to look out for as a real estate agent, really. Any deficiencies on a 4-point inspection. So we see very common in the electrical panel, there might be double taps or exposed wiring, or they might note erosion. Those are things that have to be addressed in order to be able to finalize like any policy. Also looking at the water heater age, and also we see a lot of the times there's supposed to be a TPR valve. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but this is the TPR valve. So it's supposed to have that and a line going through the valve. It's supposed to have that in order to be able to pass the 4-point inspection. And that's something that's very easy to fix, very economical to fix. It's not a big thing out of pocket. But a lot of the times we do see that on the 4-point inspection that it's missing, and it kind of holds up the process a little bit. So as soon as you guys get that 4-point inspection done, or the inspection is done, to look at that, because that can save some time. If it's missing, we can address that immediately. And then also, once you're looking at the house, I know this is probably put in like the Zillow notes and stuff, but just making sure that if the property has hurricane shutters or impact windows, because that does make a huge difference in the premium. And overall in the market, premiums aren't really going down. They are stabilizing. There are some companies that are coming out with rate decreases, but overall in the market, it's been stabilizing. So these credits make a huge difference in getting the best premiums possible, which is the hurricane shutters or impact windows. And even if the shutters are like outside or in the garage, they can still qualify for the credit as long as all the windows and doors have the railings and the tracks to put the shutters. Like I said, the water heater age and the TPR valve. Also, confirming if it's in a flood zone. There's no really website to confirm if it's in a flood zone. You would kind of have to call me, like a broker, in order to go ahead and confirm if it's in a flood zone. So we're happy to do that. We do that all day, every day here. And then also confirming if the seller has a flood insurance policy, because there's a separate slide on flood insurance. But if the seller has a flood policy, we can see if we're able to transfer the seller's flood policy to the buyer, and that saves the buyer a lot of money because flood rates right now are at an all-time high. And if the seller has a flood policy that they've had for years, they probably have a grandfather rate, so it's a lot cheaper than whatever the buyer is being quoted at with this current market. So if that's able to be done, all that needs to be done is just getting a couple forms signed by the seller and the buyer. Obviously, the seller would have to agree, and then we can get a proof of insurance showing the buyer's name on it and be able to close with that. And that's helped out a lot. And then also just being transparent on the property use with your insurance agency, like just letting them know if it's going to be a primary, if it's actually going to be an investment where they're going to rent it out. Being transparent with that, because making sure that the owner has the correct insurance coverage in place is really important. Because let's say they're doing the loan a specific way, and everything has to be a specific way. Usually with the insurance, the way that the forms are sent out, they're not going to be able to, they're just looking for hurricane coverage and wind coverage, which as long as the policy has that, it's going to be notated there. So that's all the lender's really looking for. So making sure that we're writing the correct policy, because God forbid if they have to file a claim, and let's say we did a primary residence but they're actually renting it out, then they're going to deny that claim, and then it could come up. They're probably going to call you as a realtor, mortgage broker, all that. So just being transparent, because that does make a difference, and really is important for the owner. So
Sorry
um,
to interrupt you. Quick
yeah,
question before I forget.
yeah.
So for somebody that's transferring their primary, how long do they have between moving from their primary to the new home to reach out to the insurance company and say, "Hey, this is no longer my primary,"
For the flood insurance, you said?
or regular home insurance?
All right. Oh yeah. So for them to reach out, really, as soon as they put it on the market, like for rent, because a lot of the insurance companies, like I had a client recently that their policy actually got canceled because it was listed for rent, and it was a HO3 policy that they had. It was a primary policy, so they got canceled because the client didn't think that he had to do anything, and then he put it for rent, and then the insurance company found out, and then they ended up canceling the policy. So yeah, as soon as you guys decide to put it for rent and it's on rent on like Zillow, it shows as an active rental, then that's the best time to start switching the policy. So that way, once you do rent it out, yeah, you already have it in place.
Okay, what if we're not putting it up for rent? Like the family, some of the family's gonna stay living there, but the primary homeowner is gonna purchase somewhere else.
um you
So
said
he's
like,
transferring his homestead to another home.
okay, yeah. So once they live in the other home, then they already have, like, they still own the prior home. That prior home, as soon as they purchase and they move to the new home, that's the best time to switch that policy to like
Okay.
a renter policy. Yeah.
Okay. And is there like a big difference you would say in the price?
It really depends. It really depends. There are companies where, like, there's specific companies where they just like rentals more than other companies. So it really
Okay.
depends. But from what I see, it's not a big difference. A lot of the times, I actually see it cheaper because with the DP3 or DP1 policy, we can really tailor the coverages. Whereas the HO3, a lot of the coverages are already like included in the product, so we can't play around with a lot.
Mhm.
But with a rental, we can really play around with the coverages. So a lot of the times we're able to get it around the same price or maybe even cheaper. So yeah, that's what I would say. And then I saw your question about the age of the water heater. There's really no limit. It depends on the insurance company. Like, there's two companies that they want it newer than 15 years old. So at least from 2010, for some specific insurance companies. But for Citizens, for example, they don't really care about the age. They just more care about the condition of it.
Okay. I mean that for the agents on the Zoom guys, that's a good point to negotiate your client a new water heater. You could
Yeah,
say that
100%.
if the water heater is not newer than 15 years, that they won't be able to get insurance, so the seller has to replace it.
Yeah, or we can even send quotes, um, like with a carrier that'll take the water heater, and then a carrier that'll take the water heater if it's newer, and we can see if there's a big price difference. Because if there's a big price difference, that's gonna make a difference on seeing if the, like, buyer even qualifies for the mortgage and stuff. So that's something that you can negotiate with too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So let's keep going. So flood insurance. So flood insurance has to be, well, is separate than home insurance. No home insurance right now is doing like a flood insurance bundle. And they, for the mortgage companies, the flood insurance usually has to be through FEMA. There are some, like, mortgage companies that accept a private flood insurance, but usually private flood insurance is more expensive than a FEMA policy. So that's also as well. But to if the lender is asking for the declaration page, like let's say it's a new purchase, and we need flood insurance, and sometimes the lender, they're able to just accept the application, but let's say that they need the declaration page for closing, then we're going to need to collect the payment from the client up front. in order to get the declaration page. So they would have to pay it before their closing to get the declaration page for closing for the lender. Let's say for whatever reason they don't close, then they'll get refunded the full amount. But but we've been seeing that a lot of lenders have been asking for the flood declaration page in order to be able to like get the clear to close. And so we have to call the client and kind of explain that we need to collect the payment. So that's just something for everybody to know. And then, like I was touching on the flood transfers from the seller to buyer, that's been helping out a lot on closings and saving a lot of buyers a lot of money. So that's definitely something to look out for if the seller has a flood insurance policy. And then the elevation certificate, this is usually ordered by the title company if it's in a flood zone, but that will always help get the best price for flood insurance. And you can also use the prior owner's elevation certificate if they have it, because they never expire. So sometimes we see elevations from like early 2000s, and as long as there hasn't been any major structural change to the property, then everything is going to be the same. So we're able to use prior elevation certificates as well. And then I know a big topic right now is the government shutdown. So right now for FEMA policies, we can still send an application and a paid in full invoice showing that the client paid it in the application. And if the lender is still asking for a declaration page, we can type an email, kind of explain the situation. If not, then worst case, then we can get a private flood insurance policy through a private carrier, because the private flood carriers are not affected by the government shutdown. So we've been able to do a couple of, or help out on a couple closings because of the private insurance market. Because sometimes now they do come in around the same price, depending on the location again. But this has been a solution with the government shutdown situation right now. And then next is just an example of why working with a broker is so important. Right here to the left is a citizen's quote, and you see the coverages and the deductibles, and the total premium for this was 12,493. And then here on the right is a carrier named Tip Tap Insurance, and they came in about $3,000 cheaper with the same exact coverages. So just by having this option, we were able to save the client $3,000 alone, without making any changes to the property or asking for them to do anything different. So this is just an example of that. And then exclusive agency appointments. So there's a lot of agencies, like every agency has different, not well yeah has different options. Our agency has the most options because we're like a pilot agency. We work with all the new insurance companies that are coming into the market, that a lot of agencies don't have access to, or don't have access until much longer, because we're kind of being used as like the guinea pig for a lot of these new insurance companies that are coming out. So here are just a couple of examples. Tip Tap, Tower Hill, Cypress. Has been really good for condos, especially high rise condos. They've been very, very competitive. They're probably the best right now for high rise condos. And then Florida Peninsula and Edison. American Integrity, if you guys do any brand new builds, like Lennar, Onyx, DR Horton, and especially up north too, American Integrity is very, very, very competitive. They're easily the best for brand new build property. So they've been playing a huge mark this year. And then also Universal Property and Casualty, they're back open. They were really popular back in like 2015, 2016, and they were honestly one of the biggest carriers in Florida. And after Hurricane Irma in 2017, they had closed for a couple years, and they've been slowly reopening. And now, about 6 months ago, they opened up in all zip codes. So they've been competitive. They're also open for condos as well. If let's say you have a low rise condo, or like a townhouse style condo where it looks like a townhouse, but the association covers the outside, Universal has been really, really competitive for those options. So they've been coming in clutch for that. Ovation is more for like higher end properties. They've been really competitive for bigger homes, bigger square footage, higher value. They've been great for that. Orion 180, they were actually in our office yesterday, and they're a brand new company in Florida. They came out 6 months ago, and they've been really working a lot to be competitive. and be able to be very easy to use. And one thing that they do is a self inspection. So instead of having an inspector go out to the property, they actually just have you download an app and take the photos from your phone, which a lot of people have been liking. We've been getting a lot of good feedback on that. So Orion, they've been really working to be a really competitive option here. So I'm sure they're going to be selling. They're going to be doing a lot of insurance in Florida within the next year or so. And then Security First, they've been really competitive because they have what's called a DP1 product, and we can do that for tenant and owner occupied. Usually, companies only allow it for tenant occupied if it's rented out, but Security First allows it for if it's a primary property too. So let's say there's a tight DTI and the buyer needs like the cheapest of the cheapest. Security First is probably going to give us that option. However, they do require that the home has hurricane protection. So it needs to have either shutters or impact windows in order to qualify with Security First. If it's in Miami or Broward, if it's more up north, then they don't require that. But if it's in Miami or Broward, they do need the hurricane protection in order to qualify for them. So as long as the property has that, they've been the cheapest, definitely by far. But the DF1 product, it does not include any water damage coverage. So if there's water pipe damage, and the buyer and the owner tries to file a claim, they're not going to have any coverage. But as long as they understand that and they're okay with that, then it is an option. And then People's Trust, they were the same as Universal. They were really popular back in like 2015, 2016, and now they've reopened in Miami-Dade and Broward. They had they're a pretty hit or miss right now. It's like 50-50 if you're gonna win with them or not. Um, Recently, we haven't really seen them winning a lot. They also have like a basic choice option. That's kind of like the Security First DF1. It's just pretty much the same product, but lately they haven't been coming in too competitive. But they're still an option, which is great to have. So all these new carriers is definitely a really good indication that Florida's heading in the right direction, and that more insurance companies have been coming in and wanting to expand their business to Florida again. So what that means is that could help rates go down, because as long as we don't have any hurricanes, so knock on wood that we don't have any hurricanes or bad hurricanes that hit. As long as that happens, then more insurance companies are to be coming in, and we should hopefully be seeing rates start to fall a little bit, because they have been pretty high the last 5 to 7 years. Um, so yeah, and then information needed to quote. We don't need a lot of information. We just need the client information, like their name, their date of birth, where they're currently living at, and their phone number and email. And then copies of the inspections. Those always make a huge difference, like how we were talking earlier. Get you the best price, and we can see every single option to see what they qualify for, and just confirming how the property is going to be used on the occupancy. If it's going to be primary, secondary, or rental property. And then how to lower insurance costs. So obviously the wind mitigation, that's going to have the all the credits for the property. So the roof credits, the attic credits, and the hurricane protection credits. That's going to have all that there. So that's easy. The best way to get a lower cost. The dwelling coverage, we can play around with that through the replacement cost estimator with these companies. So if we have to lower it, we can maybe lower the dwelling a little bit. The policy form, we like I said, we can do the companies that offer a DP1, DF1. There's also an option called an HO8, where that also just exclude water damage coverage. Some companies offer that, like Universal, but there are specific guidelines for the HO8. And then the roof year, and if the roof has permits, that's going to help out get the best options possible and be able for them to qualify for the roof credit. And then water plumbing coverage, we can cap it at 10,000 or completely exclude it in order to get the insurance costs a little lower. And the burglar and fire alarm, if the property has a burglar and fire alarm, we can apply that credit, and then the insured would just need to provide the alarm certificate immediately after closing, showing their name on it. And then there are some companies like Orion, for example, that they're actually giving a car insurance bundle. So some of these carriers are seeing that if the car insurance is with the agency that wrote the business, then they give a small credit for the car insurance. Orion right now gives the biggest credit for that, and there's only one other company that gives a credit for that, and that's Safeco. Safeco isn't really too competitive right now, but Orion has been competitive, and their credit is about $200 on the annual premium if they have the car insurance bundle, so that helps too as well. And then why a reliable insurance broker is crucial. Response time, making sure that you have options sent the same day, making sure that you're able to get the best options possible. Transparency, we're all about being transparent, letting you know how things are and what the solutions are and what to look out for. And carry your knowledge, and working with a broker that just knows all the guidelines, knows where to place the business, because the last thing that you need is to close and then all of a sudden your client's getting canceled 30, 45 days after closing because of some underwriting issue. So that's always a headache to deal with. Exclusive agency appointments, like I said, not every agency is the same. Our agency, we're a pilot agency, so we have a lot of other companies or that other agencies don't have. And getting difficult deals to the closing table, we see pretty much every situation when it comes to home insurance, a lot of different things. So we know how to get those difficult deals through and know what avenues we have to take. And so that's really important, having an insurance broker on your team like that. So especially with this market right now. And then here's my contact information. So that's my cell phone number and that's my email address. If you guys have anything that you're working on now that you want me to take a look at, or in the future, want some quotes for, that's my direct contact information right there. And we'll be sending over the presentation to your email so that everybody has it. And that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or type it in the chat. But yeah, for
Do you
sure.
guys provide homeowners renters insurance as well?
Yeah, we do renters insurance. That's through like an HO4, and those
Okay,
are usually like really cheap, like between like $150 to $250, depending.
a year
Yeah, a
or
year, depending on the size of the property and if it has a pool, if it's a house. But yeah, that's something
perfect.
that we can do for sure.
Okay, great. Good to know.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll be contacting you after the call to
Yeah,
renew my
definitely,
flood insurance.
100%. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I saw your comment in the beginning. That's funny. Yeah, we can definitely handle
Yes.
that today.
Perfect. Well,
Awesome.
thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for joining. Carla, thank you. I saw your message. So yeah. So yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions in the future, just feel free to reach out. And thank you again for joining. And that's pretty much it.
Alrighty, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Michelle. Bye.